Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. I'm back. I took about a week off from these recap videos to recover from being sick. I was really struggling, and these videos take a long time to record, so I went ahead and did some other content, but the recaps are back. I'm going to be doing them more frequently now, and today we had 11 games to go ahead and talk about in the league, a ton of action, some really close matchups, and one team in particular that we're going to focus on that has been on fire. They've been way overdue for a video, and they're playing like one of the best teams in the league right now after struggling immensely after their big acquisition. They found their footing, they look unstoppable, and it feels like this may be the best iteration of this team that we've seen in quite some time. But before we get into that, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Also, I'm testing out a new microphone in this video, so let me know how it sounds. I've been trying to tweak some of the settings. I don't know if I have them quite perfect yet, but would love to hear any feedback that y'all have. Oh, and as always, would love to hear your takeaways from these games down below in the comments. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's kick things off with Clippers versus Pacers. This is a game that I've been eyeing for a few days now. Fun matchup. You've got the Pacers, who are an immensely fun offense, the Clippers, who've been on a tear recently. They can't seem to lose if they wanted to. I was expecting a high-scoring back-and-forth affair that finishes with some kind of crazy buckets, Tyrese playing his butt off Kawhi, James Harden doing crazy things. I was expecting a barn burner, and unfortunately, the game wasn't that good. It was fun for the first half, or I guess first quarter and a half. By the end of the second quarter, the Clippers had started to pull away a little bit. Both teams were on fire in the first quarter, and the second half, the Clippers were just completely dominating. By the end of the third quarter, and really about halfway through the fourth quarter, this game wasn't even close. The Clippers end up dropping 151 points on the Pacers' heads, and I know the Pacers' defense is bad, but that's absurd. They won by 24 points, and with this win, they've got an 8-game win streak that has them tied with the Dallas Mavericks for the 5th seed in the Western Conference, and they're just 1.5 games back of the 2-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder. They've been the hottest team in the NBA by far. It's not even close. And this is all coming after an abysmal start to the James Harden era. They lost 6 games in a row, with that last loss coming against the then, I think, 1-8 Memphis Grizzlies. It felt like they hit rock bottom. It was like, oh, was the James Harden trade a mistake? They had no front court depth. There was no chemistry on the team. The defense wasn't working. The offense was abysmal. A lot of Clippers reporters and fans that I follow were saying it was some of the most embarrassing games they've ever seen from the LA Clippers. It was a disaster, but since that moment, they had a couple of wins, a couple of losses, and over these last 8 games, they've looked like one of the best teams in the entire NBA. They found a rhythm that looks unbreakable at the moment. The rest of the Western Conference better hope that this isn't legit and that they cool off, because right now they look legitimately terrifying. And the biggest reason for this, or one of the biggest reasons, has been James Harden finding his groove. He started this season kind of slow. The whole team was trying to figure out how he worked in the offense. They were trying to figure out who to play him with, what the rotation should look like, and they've found exactly what they should be doing. Over the course of this Clippers tenure that he's had so far, he's putting up 17.1 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 7.6 assists on a really solid 48% from the field and 44% from deep. He's been fantastic, and tonight was probably his best game of the season, dropping 35 points, 3 rebounds, and 9 assists, including an 18-point run by himself in the fourth quarter in the span of 3 minutes. It was step back 3 after step back 3 after step back 3. There was one layup thrown in there after step back 3. It was vintage James Harden stuff. He looked like the MVP James Harden of old, the James Harden that we've seen every now and again over the past couple of years. He showed up again tonight. He was dominant, and it finished off with one final step back 3 where he got fouled, fell to the ground. The Clippers bench is losing their minds. He hits a snow angel on the court. His teammates run up there punching his chest. He screams into the camera. It was the most hyped I've seen James Harden in a long time, and it feels like the Clippers have really found this groove. This game, in my opinion, is a big statement to the rest of the league. If you haven't been watching them the rest of these games, this Clippers team is here. They have figured things out, and James Harden is one of the biggest reasons why. They added him to be this extra scorer, be this high-level, reliable playmaker, and that's the exact role that he's found. He's developed that chemistry with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, especially with those big men where at the beginning of his tenure, he and Zubac were not on the same page at all. But I heard some kind of report, I can't remember where I heard this, but apparently he stayed after practice a number of times so far this season with just the big men to talk about where they like to catch the ball, what kind of passes he likes to throw to build that chemistry. He's worked really hard on trying to make this thing work, and he's given them now efficient scoring, high-level playmaking, been the exact point guard that the Clippers have been looking for years. This was the vision they envisioned when they traded for James Harden, and it's coming to fruition right now, and it looks really, really good. One of the biggest beneficiaries of this James Harden renaissance so far has been Kawhi Leonard, who's playing some of the best basketball we've seen from him probably since his ACL tear a few years ago. Over these 8 games that they've won in a row, Kawhi's putting up 29.3 points per game, 5.5 boards, and 4 assists with 1.3 steals on 62.3% shooting from the field and 54.8% from deep. He can't miss. He is one of the most efficient players in the league right now. He's doing it with great volume, playing high-level defense too. Some of the best defense I've seen from Kawhi Leonard in a minute. He's locked in. This looks like playoff Kawhi Leonard. And if they're getting this throughout the regular season, who knows how high they can climb up in the standings, and who knows what Kawhi is going to look like when he gets to the playoffs and truly locks in like we know he can. He is still one of the best playoff performers in my eyes. We saw that a lot last year before he got injured in the Sun series. If he's playing like this, imagine levels he can get to when the playoffs roll around. Meanwhile, you've got Paul George, who was kind of taking a step back with all this going on. He started the season really hot as the Clippers' best player, and now he's averaging less and less points per game. He's kind of fading into the background a little bit more, which someone was going to have to sacrifice to make this James Harden thing work. And Paul George has been one of those guys. He's still capable of having really good games. He's still a fantastic player. He's just not putting up the numbers he was at the beginning of the year, which is understandable when you add a guy like James Harden into the fold. Shout out to Paul George, he's been willing to sacrifice. And same thing with Russell Westbrook. He voluntarily moved himself to the bench after the losing streak. He said, hey, I think I might be better in this role. Let James Harden continue to start. After a lot of people were calling for Harden to get benched, instead he says, I'll go ahead and do it. And since that moment, it feels like the Clippers have really figured things out. Russ is still playing really well off the bench, great in his role as an extra playmaker alongside James Harden. They rarely share the court to allow them to continuously have a playmaker of some type on the court. Ty Lue's done a great job of staggering he and Harden's minutes, of really all the stars' minutes in general. He's built some great lineups. It feels like the team has just found their rhythm on pretty much all fronts at this point. Not to mention that this team is absolutely clamping up as well. They've moved up to a top 10 defensive rating. In this game, they held Tyrese Halliburton to just 8 points. Benedict Mathurin did drop 34. The Pacers as a whole dropped over 120, but that's bound to happen when you as a team drop 150 points. And the Pacers score that much pretty much any game anyway, so this was just an average game for them. The Clippers did a phenomenal job defensively in this one. They really have over this entire 8-game win streak, and that's in addition to the top 10 offense that they have right now. They're joining the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Thunder as the only teams that are top 10 both offensively and defensively. And despite that awful stretch that they had and kind of a shaky start to the season, they have the 5th best net rating on the season. They're up there with the elite teams in terms of net rating. They're one of the top seeds in the Western Conference at this point. They have gone from a team that lost 6 straight games, again, including an L, to the 1-8 Memphis Grizzlies at that point, to a team that's on fire, 8 straight dubs, including wins over Denver and blowout wins over Sacramento, the Knicks, and the Indiana Pacers, all pretty good teams. But perhaps the most important thing about the Clippers at the moment is they've actually managed to stay healthy so far. Up to this point in the season, Kawhi Leonard has only missed 1 game, PG has only missed 2, and since suiting up for the Clippers, Harden hasn't missed a single game. These are 3 stars that have been very injury prone as of late, Kawhi and Paul George in particular, and a franchise that has just had horrible injury luck over their entire time as being an NBA team, but especially as of late in the Paul George, Kawhi Leonard era. They just can't keep this team healthy. So far, they've managed to do so, and you're seeing an example of what they can do when they're healthy. I mean, last year in the playoffs, they would have given the Suns a really, really tough series if they just could have kept their guys on the court. Maybe this is the season injury luck actually goes their way. I'm going to knock on wood because I feel like I might have just jinxed it there, but hopefully they continue to keep their guys on the court. And if they do, I'm really excited about what the Clippers can do. They are cooking right now. They look terrifying. The rest of the Western Conference should be scared of this healthy Clippers team. James Harden's looked great. Kawhi Leonard looks the best that he has in years, showing that he can still be a top 10, top 5 caliber player. Paul George is sacrificing and he can still step it up. Russell Westbrook's been good. Their depth pieces are kind of figuring things out. Tyronn Lue's got the rotations down. They're building chemistry rapidly. If they can stay healthy, the chemistry is only going to get better and better, which is also another issue with these Clippers teams at times where they deal with injuries throughout the year, so they don't feel the most cohesive going into the playoffs like some of the other healthier teams. It feels like things may be finally clicking, and hey, who knows, after a lot of people bashed the James Harden trade following that 6-game losing streak, maybe it was the right decision, and this is the season where the Clippers finally break through and make their way to an NBA Finals. With the way they're playing right now, I wouldn't put it past them. As for the Pacers, pretty rough game for Tyrese Halliburton, just 8 points in this one. Benedict Mathurin had a 30-piece, but not much else going on outside of those guys, at least not nearly enough to take down this Clippers team that was just destroying them. They're a juggernaut at this point. The Pacers have been on a bit of a skid. They've lost 4 out of their last 5 games, 4 of the last 5 since the in-season tournament loss to the Lakers. Haven't looked great as of late. The defense has really been catching up to them. They've got to figure out how to stop the bleeding, because as great as the offense has been, it's hard to consistently win when you're being forced to score 130 points a night against pretty much any opponent. Let's go ahead now and move into some of the other games. First, I want to talk about Cavaliers versus Rockets. This was a really fun game. It went to overtime, with Cleveland picking up a win in OT by 5 points over a really good Rockets team while missing Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, both of whom are expected to have extended absences over the next couple of months. It's a shame because the Cavs have dealt with so many injuries up to this point. It feels like they keep piling on. This was a year where I thought they were going to have a bit of a breakthrough, be a top 3, 2 maybe even-ish seed in the Eastern Conference if they really got things to break their way. Hasn't been the case so far. They're going to need big team efforts to get wins in the absences of those guys, which was the case tonight. 37 from Donovan Mitchell, 5 threes from Sam Merrill, Max Strus at 17 points. It was impressive. Again, they're going to need more of this to get wins without Garland or Mobley, and I'm a little bit scared about where they're going to end up in the standings with those guys missing a lot of time. As for the Rockets, they fought back really well late in this game, getting big threes from Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet. They had the game tied at the end of regulation, had a pretty good fadeaway look from Alperen Şengün, a shot that he hits most of the time but ends up missing it, just barely rimming out over Jarrett Allen. They end up losing in overtime. Jalen Green, big story in this game. He continues to struggle. I was really hoping it would be a breakout year from him, and I'm not giving up on him. I'm still high on Jalen Green. I think he could still be really good. It just hasn't been the year I was hoping for. 12 points, 2 of 12 shooting from the field, 2 turnovers. They're going to need more out of him to keep this thing going because the defense has been regressing. They need more offense, and Jalen Green could be a big source of that. Just hasn't been really the case at all this season. Next up, let's talk Timberwolves versus Heat. Maybe the best game of the night. Really back and forth. The Wolves went down 17 points in the first half, stormed the way back to a lead in the fourth quarter. The Heat give them some problems, but Anthony Edwards down the stretch takes over late, 10 points for the Timberwolves in the last 5 minutes, including a bank shot late that gave them a 3-point lead. They hold on to it, as I believe it was Jimmy Butler misses a fadeaway 3. They get this win over a really good Heat team, moved to 20-5. They're really, really good. They've looked amazing so far. Great play from guys across the board. Naz Reid is one of the best bench players in the league. Cat played well. Gobert was great defensively. This team is just completely stacked. Really fun to see what they've been doing so far. Miami got great games out of Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo in this one. Both made returns after extended absences. Great to see them back on the court. The Heat have held their own despite a lot of injuries, but you want to see them get their full team out there. They gave one of the best teams in the league in Minnesota a great fight, and I think that's going to continue to be the case, as I expect the Heat to continue to prove me wrong and play way above what I thought they were going to do this season, now especially that they've got guys getting healthier. A game that was surprisingly good on this slate was Sixers versus Bulls. The Sixers were big-time favorites. They're at home. They've been dominating the competition. Embiid has very rarely had to play the fourth quarter. That's how good they've been, but Bulls led by double digits for a majority of this game, and at the end of this one, the Sixers make a bit of a comeback. The Bulls get some shots, and Embiid has a shot with 7 seconds left to go ahead and try and tie this one up. Ends up missing. Bulls go ahead and hit some free throws. They snap the Sixers 6-game winning streak, and they themselves move on to win 6 of their last 9 games, including wins over Milwaukee, New Orleans, Miami, and now Philadelphia. They've looked really good as of late, really ever since Zach LaVine left the lineup. The Bulls have kind of figured things out, and the biggest reason has been Kobe White. I can't say enough positive things about the way Kobe's been playing as of late. Had 24 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists tonight. He's nearing 20 points per game on the season, shooting over 40% from deep. It feels like he's breaking out in a big way, becoming maybe a future star player for this team that's kind of looking towards a rebuild. He's still just 23 years old, despite this being his 5th season in the league. I thought he was way older than that, to be honest, when I checked his age. But now, Kobe's got a lot left in the tank. It feels like this is his breakout year, and the Bulls have become way more fun to watch as of late. Joel Embiid does still dominate, 40 points, 14 boards, and 6 assists, just putting up unreal numbers this season. Right now, he's my MVP favorite. Maxey struggled, just 9 of 23 shooting, finished with 29 points. Rough game from Tobias and Oubre. Some of the other supporting guys just not going to win them all, and the Bulls caught them off guard. Huge win for Chicago. Final game I want to go in-depth into before rapid fire is Knicks versus Lakers. Close battle, night where the Lakers rose the in-season tournament banner, which people definitely clown them for on Twitter, but the Knicks end up spoiling it, getting the win 114-109, 29-4-3 from Jalen Brunson, 27-14-3 from Randall. They've been one of the league's best duos this season, especially after Julius Randle has bounced back from that terrible start. Brunson, 100% an all-star this season. Got 20 points from Emmanuel quickly off the bench. He's pushing for 6th man of the year. And hey, the Knicks are up to the 5 seed right now. They're pretty close to the Magic, or at the 4 spot. They might continue to climb up the standings. Anthony Davis puts up 32 and 14. Braun had a 25, 10, and 11 triple-double. Reeves had 20 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists. Just didn't get much production outside that big three. Taurean Prince was 3 of 13 from deep. Cam Reddish was 0 of 4 from deep. It's been an up and down season for the Lakers. One really weird stat is that in the in-season tournament, they went 7-0, and in all non-in-season tournament games this season, they're 8-12. So when the stakes were higher, they were better, and now it feels like they can't find a win when it's not games that count towards something. It's a weird trend. I guess maybe it bodes well for them being in a playoff environment, but you have to actually make it to the playoffs in a tough Western Conference first. I do think the Lakers will do that, but they've just been wildly inconsistent so far this season. Let's go ahead now and wrap up the rest of these games. The Thunder blow out the Memphis Grizzlies behind a 7-block game from Chet, following an 8-block performance the game before. He's been unstoppable in the paint this season, and the Grizzlies just played their last game before John Morant's return. Should be a big boost to them. The Hawks hand the Pistons their 23rd straight loss, despite a career-high 43 points from Cade Cunningham. Really wants to get them a win. They're just 4 losses away from breaking the single-season record for consecutive L's. The Nuggets decimate the Mavericks, mostly due to 21 from Aaron Gordon, 22 from Jamal Murray, and 20 points from Reggie Jackson. Just 8 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists from Nikola Jokic. You really just didn't have to do much at all to get this win. Luka put up a heroic 38, 11, and 8, but didn't get much help whatsoever. The Jazz beat the Nets by double digits behind 27 points from Colin Sexton and THT, both of whom are building their trade value up pretty steadily at this point in the season. The Raptors dominate the Hornets thanks to 22, 17, and 7 from Scotty, and 27, 8, and 8 from Pascal Siakam. And finally, the Sacramento Kings beat the Wizards behind a big 28, 13, and 12 triple-double from Sabonis, outlasting a 28-piece from Jordan Poole. With all that being said, those are my takeaways from the games. Let me know down below in the comments what your thoughts were, and also, what do you think about this Clippers team? Are they a championship contender? How far can they go with this big three of Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard? Where do they stand right now in the Western Conference in your eyes? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I appreciate y'all watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.